Hey everyone, welcome back to another Beast of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series reviews. Today we're taking a look at one of the big boys, and I do mean big. It's the Torosaurus. I'd like to give David another huge thank you for sending out these production samples to give me the opportunity to do these early reviews. So getting back to this Torosaurus, this was my most anticipated figure in the entire Ceratopsian series. This is the figure I wanted the most, and I'm so happy it's here. This thing looks absolutely gorgeous in the box, and I can't wait to get it out, and I just can't believe these figures are going to get bigger when the Tyrannosaurus series starts shipping next year. The Torosaurus and the adult Triceratops are the two largest figures in the Ceratopsian series, and since they are the largest, they also come with the biggest price tag. This figure, if you pre-order it, is $130. Once it comes into stock, it's going to go up to its regular retail price of $139.99. So if you want to get it for that pre-order price and save yourself $10, just follow the link down below in the description to Creative Beast Studios and lock in your pre-order. It should be a couple more weeks before the rest of the Wave 3 figures are in stock, and once they are, they'll be shipping out to everyone that order these, and that ETA is around early to mid-December. So let's go over the packaging really quick before we crack this big blue beauty open. You got some nice artwork of the Torosaurus on the sleeve of the packaging. The Beast of the Mesozoic logo is all done nicely in red foil trim. And then turn the box to the side. Oh my god, this figure is so heavy. You got the Beast of the Mesozoic logo along with the silhouette of the Triceratops. And then on the back of the box, you do have pictures of the rest of the Wave 3 Ceratopsians. Along on the back of the sleeve, you have that same artwork that's on the front with some facts about Torosaurus. And the sleeve is removable. And then there is the entire checklist for Wave 3. I'll be reviewing the rest of Wave 3 when my order ships in December like everyone else's. So that should do it for the packaging. Let's crack this figure open and take a closer look. Alright, let's start a nice 360-degree view of the Torosaurus. My brain's still trying to comprehend the size of this figure. It is absolutely massive, barely fits on the turntable, and I am in absolute love with this figure. Like I said earlier, this was the most anticipated figure in the entire Ceratopsian series for me, and this figure does live up to the hype. I am just can't stop adoring this thing, and I just love that bright blue coloration. Just like most of the figures in this line, the color schemes are based off real-life reptiles and amphibians, and the Torosaurus is based off the whiptail blue lizard. And I absolutely love the false eyes on the frill. That is an awesome touch, and I'm just loving all the blue paint. It's highlighted by black markings, and you have some like darker blue speckled in there mixed in with light blue. You have some white dry brushing over the hind legs and the back, and you really can't see on camera right now. Probably see a little bit better when I zoom in on the figure. There's some large scales along the back and hind legs that are decked out in almost a purple paint. So that's another nice definition of color. And I just absolutely love the ridiculous size of this figure. That's my favorite part. I love big dinosaur figures, and this thing is just a dream come true for me. And just like every figure in the series, you do get a nice collector card inside the box featuring that artwork that's found on the outer sleeve. Right here we got two Torosaurs squaring off against each other. I would love to get two and recreate the scene, but $130 is a lot to drop on two figures, and they have a nice picture of the actual figure on the back, along with some facts about Torosaurus. So enough about the card. Let's move on to measurements. And moving on to measurements, this figure is 18 inches long from the tip of the beak to the tip of the tail, and just over 7 inches tall to the top of the frill. So Torosaurus in real life was somewhere between 26 feet to 30 feet long. So I put this figure somewhere in the 117 to the 119 scale range. Torosaurus is also known to have one of the largest skulls of any known land animal. So the head on this figure is about 7¼ inches long. The Yale Peabody Museum specimen of Torosaurus, I think it's specimen number 1831, that skull is almost 8.5 feet long. And I've actually seen that skull a few times in person, and it's absolutely massive to see in person. And I know some paleontologists consider Titanoceratops to have the largest skull of any known land animal, but some paleontologists think that the frill was reconstructed too long, and I really think Torosaurus had the largest skull. And there's also been some talks of Torosaurus being the mature form of Triceratops because of how rare this species is in the fossil record, but that's lately been disproven because we've actually found juvenile specimens of Torosaurus, and if I got into that whole transitional skull growing thing with Triceratops Torosaurus, that'd just be a whole nother video. So let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with this absolutely massive head. I love the war paint look along the side of the face. You have some white stripes highlighted by a little bit of red. You have a nice dark blue stripe going up on the horn, and that is trimmed in white paint. The beak is painted in a bright yellow color, and you have a little bit of light brown dry brushing to highlight the edges of the beak. The horns are tipped in brown paint, and then it transitions into that blue. Now, you'll notice that most of the head is very smooth on here. There is no scale detail on the frill, and there is a reason for that. While these figures were being sculpted, it was unknown if, Ceratopsians actually had scales on their frill, or if they were covered in like a keratin sheet, like similar to the material on our fingernails. So after these figures were sculpted, there was a discovery at the Canadian Museum of Nature. There was a old Triceratops skull in storage, and they started preparing it, and they actually found scales on the frills. So that means Torosaurus and Triceratops most likely had scales. I don't know if that's been officially described yet, but it looks very promising that these Ceratopsians did have scales on their frills. But like I said, these figures were sculpted before that discovery. But you do have a little bit of scale detail on the heads. You have some around the nasal region. You can see the nostril sculpting right here. Tiny portion of scales near the ear, and a little bit of scale detail around the orbit. You can see the knobs along the side of the frill are decked out in a tan color paint. And then looking at the figure from the front, let's zoom out just a little bit. You get a nice look at those false eyes, and I absolutely love that detail. I just really appreciate the hand-painted look of these figures. I just think these look absolutely great. And you can see, even though there's no scale detail on the frill, there's a lot of nice subtle sculpted detail on there to give the impression of a keratin sheath on top of bone. And then turn it to the side right here, we get a look at that massive thick neck. But before we look at the neck, I'm getting a little carried away here. You can see inside the mouth has some nice details in it. It's always kind of tough to see in there, but there is a articulated tongue way back there. It does not stick out as far as it does on some other figures, but it is in there. You just have to stick your finger and play around with it, and you can see some teeth sculpted in here. It's just really not showing up on camera. And then underneath the underside of the figure, you do have some really nice scale details, and the whole bottom jaw is adorned with lots of nice scale variation. And now going down to the neck, you can see all that black paint coming in. You have some large blotches of blue markings, and inside them is painted a darker blue highlighted by a lighter blue. And then going down to the front legs, this figure is so heavy to maneuver on camera. You can see you have some nice dry brushing to bring out all that beautiful scale detail on the legs. The hands are beautifully sculpted. The toenails are done in a glossy brown paint. And then going down to the body, you can see some large scales sculpted in here or there. And then we get to about the hip region. There is just a little bit of red poking through, and you can see these larger scales right here. They're picked out almost in a purple colored paint. And then going down to the thigh, you see some more of that white dry brushing, some black markings along the upper thigh. And then going down to the legs, you have a little bit of green dry brushing along the thigh and the calf muscles that add a little bit more definition to all that blue plastic. Going down to the hind feet, same thing. Toenails are painted in that glossy brown paint. And then turn the figure over from the top, you get a nice view of that speckled pattern along the back. And then going down to the thighs, it starts to turn into a stripe pattern. You can see more of that white dry brushing. And then going all the way down, you can see those large scales are picked out in that purple paint, highlighted by black stripes along that very tiny tail. And then the tip of the tail is just dry brushed in white paint. And then turn the figure over, you can see the underside of the stomach is dry brushed in a yellowish paint. So all in all, like I said, it's a very blue figure, but I love all the blue. I love blue on dinosaur figures, so this really doesn't bother me. It may bother some, and like I said, David, in one of my other videos, David might do some fan choice recolors on some of these Ceratopsians. And I'm sure the Torosaurus could benefit from a much more natural color scheme to help entice people that, aren't into these like super vivid color schemes. Like I said, I absolutely love it. I think the blue is pretty gnarly looking, and it's just right there. I just love those false eye spots on there. So enough about the paint and details. Let's move on to articulation. Now for articulation, the mouth can open up that wide. You can go a little further with it, but that bottom jaw piece will start to come out, and you can actually see the gums in this little space right here between the upper and lower jaws. So you want to just keep it right about there in that position, and it closes about that much. And that is my biggest complaint with this figure. So actually, it's my only complaint. I just don't like how the jaw doesn't close completely flush. You just left with this half open mouth look, and it just, I just wish it would close a little bit more. Like I said, it's my only complaint about this figure. And then going down to the neck, you do get a little bit of side to side movement at the front of that neck joint. Let's make sure my camera's focused in on that. And then for the neck right here, figure can look up that far, and it can look down that far. And then using both neck joints, you get some really nice side to side movement with that. It's a very big figure. Like I said, it's kind of tough to maneuver around, but I always do like that articulation on the neck. You do get some great side to side movement. And then going down to the front legs, they can move forwards, they can move backwards, they can angle out a little bit. You do have a joint at the elbow. You can get just about just under 90 degrees. For the hands, they can tilt down and they can rotate from side to side. Going down to the midpoint of the figure, it can angle up, which is good for sitting poses, and you can angle it down a little bit. And looking at it from the top, you do get some nice side to side movement with that joint. For the hind legs, they can move backwards and forwards. You actually could pretty much do 360 degrees with them if you like. At the knee, you have some very clicky joints on the knee, and that's about the biggest bend you can get out of that knee joint. Then at the ankle, you can get a little downwards and upwards movement. Same thing with the feet, a little bit of movement at the feet and a little bit of rotation. And then finally, going down to the tail, you get some downward movement. Not really much upward movement. It's just the way it's sculpted. It just stops right there. It just stays flush with the rest of the body. But you do get some nice side to side movement. Not as much as some of the other figures in this line, but the tail is so short, so it's really not that noticeable. So that will cover the articulation. Let's move on with comparisons. And first up for comparisons, here it is with one of the human figures from the Mattel line. This is a 3 3/4 inch figure. Here it is with Alan Grant. And next up, here it is with the Collecte Torosaurus. I do have the Walking with Dinosaurs Torosaurus. I just have no clue where I put it. I have boxes and boxes of dinosaur figures, and that's just one of the figures I haven't been able to track down the last few years. And next up, here it is with the old Carnage Collection Triceratops. And here it is next to what some people would consider a dog. And next, here it is with Mattel's Triceratops. Every time I bring it out, it is just hilariously too small for the line. It needs to be at least twice the size to scale with the T-Rexes in the line. And speaking of the T-Rexes in the Mattel line, here it is with the Dino Escape Tyrannosaurus Rex. And just to give everyone an idea of how big the T-Rex figure is when that eventually comes out, here it is next to the Kenner Red Rex, and that figure is roughly the size of the Beast of the Mesozoic version, and when that comes out, it's going to look absolutely incredible. I'm so excited for the Tyrannosaurus series. Those figures look absolutely gorgeous, and that T-Rex is going to be absolutely massive. I am seriously running out of space collecting these figures. You know what? Let's do one more Jurassic comparison. Here it is next to the Mattel Ford Explorer. And here it is with the other previously reviewed Wave 3 figures. Here it is with the Pentaceratops and the Alberta Ceratops. You can see that this Torosaurus is a lot bigger than both of these figures. And lastly, here it is with all the different body sizes in the line. The Pentaceratops, the tiny Zuniceratops, Centrosaurus, Medusaceratops, Subadult Triceratops, and Spicliphalus. And I just think this line turned out absolutely fantastic. Love all the size differences among the figures, and they all look absolutely beautiful next to each other. So, final thoughts on the Torosaurus. If you can't tell by now, I am in absolute love with this big, blue, beautiful figure. It's just a sight to behold. You just really can't grasp how big this figure is until you have it in hand. And it's absolutely massive. It's just a big, hefty chunk of plastic. And I just absolutely adore that bright blue coloration. I know it's not for everyone, but like I said, I just absolutely love the color blue on dinosaur figures. And this one overdid it with the blue, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful. My only minor complaint is just the way the mouth is sculpted and the way the articulation works. The mouth is always left a little bit half open, and, you know, it bugs me a little bit. I just wish it closed a little bit more flush, but like I said, it's a minor complaint, and the rest of the figure really makes up for that. And like I said, it's just an absolute sight to behold. Like I said at the beginning of the review, you can still pre-order this figure for the special pre-order price of $130. Once it comes into stock, the price is going to go up to $139.99. So like I said, if you want to save a couple bucks, just go click the link down below in the description to Creative Beast Studios to secure your pre-order. Wave 3 is scheduled to ship sometime early to mid-December, and once I get the rest of that wave in, I'll be reviewing those figures then. So that would do it for the review. The only other thing I have new to review on the channel is the Mattel Baby Brachiosaurus. A fellow collector on one of the Facebook pages found that figure to me. I'm just waiting for it to get shipped to me. And other than that, I really don't have too much new stuff to cover the next couple of weeks, so I'll just probably be reviewing some older figures. So be on the lookout for those reviews. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously, and it's greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.